Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are talking to an athlete who was born in Canada and now lives in the United States, who got into competing after falling in love with lifting. She's a sponsored athlete and a fit body fusion coach. Welcome to the show, Jourdanne Lee. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Celeste?
I'm awesome. I'm super happy to have you here. And of course, before I get into everything that I have planned, I just have to ask you, do you have a ritual or anything that you do right before your heel hits the stage?
Yeah, actually, I do have a ritual.
Cool.
So besides super quiet time and no devices, I put my phone away. My coach, Jamie DeBernard, she does a quick check just to make sure that the bod is on point and everything is where we need to be. And then one of my besties, Jessie Palmer, we have this little handshake thing. It's like a pinky kiss thing.
Uh-huh.
Describe it, but it's something that we do when we're backstage. And we don't even talk when we're backstage, but we do that, and then we line up and we just get in the zone. So yeah, I do have a little bit of ritual. It's hilarious, but
that is so cute.
That's what it is.
I love that. She was actually just on the podcast in February 1st.
Yes, I heard. Yes.
And for everybody listening, what?
Wealth of knowledge. She's an OG.
Oh yeah, she's amazing. She's definitely been through a lot and been in this for a while. So that was cool to hear from her. And I know you guys are really close friends, and that's why I was like, okay, I definitely need to have Jourdanne on here. And I know that, I recorded right now for those listening, we're recording this in February, but I know this isn't even coming out till April. It's part of making sure I'm getting episodes for you guys. But as we're talking about things that are going on now, that's kind of why. So anyways, something that you showcase through your posts and just who you are is really how much you value health, proper growth, diet progressions, and really enjoying everything that you do in life. And that's something, that has inspired me to bring you on, because I just have so much that I really want to dig in with you today on that. And I just love how real you are with everyone, all the time. So I want to get into a little bit of things about physique development, and especially from a coach's perspective. So, I think a lot of girls tend to compare their physique to the next girl without consideration for the journey that each person has undergone. So from your perspective as a coach, and of course as a competitor too, having worked with many different women with various body types and of course starting points, what are some of those factors that come into play when writing someone's plan? Aside from obviously height and weight and competition history, what else are you taking into consideration?
Of course. So one of the first things that you have to look at when, you're working with an athlete, whether it's on season, going into season, or, just overall lifestyle, is their actual physique themselves. So the goal is creating their best self. It's them versus them. Us as competitors or people within the fitness industry, we're always looking at others, and it's okay to level set, but at the end of the day, the person that you're looking at in front of the mirror, that's who you want to create your best. So I look at the athlete structurally and see where the opportunities are for growth, right? So let's say it's somebody that wants to get on stage for the first time. Well, as a coach and somebody who's health conscious, my first priority is making sure that they're eating enough food and they're intaking enough calories to fuel their workouts. And a lot of the times with newer competitors or people newer within the fitness, world is they need to put muscle on. So that's always the first priority for me, getting their calories in a healthy place, making sure that they have a healthy relationship with food, seeing how they react to the food. And then obviously, building out a plan that will assist and allow for growth. And then, once we get into a groove and a good ebb and flow, that's when we kind of make the decision in terms of, are we competing or are we not competing? So sorry, going back to what you originally asked, what do you look at first?
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'll look at their physique. Where are the opportunities within their physique to grow? Do they have an upper body that needs more development? Do they have glutes that need more development? Or, maybe they were a soccer player when they were younger and they have quad development. So you would shy away from that area and focus on the other areas to grow, and do that in a steady, safe way, because bodybuilding is a sport of progression and improvement constantly. That's what makes it so fun and makes it so beautiful. There's always something that you can tweak or improve. So it's always a marathon. It's never a race. Or sorry, a marathon is a race. Duh. a sprint. So yeah, I like to take my time with everybody, and making sure that they're eating that sufficient amount of food so that they can actually grow.
Yeah, I find like I don't coach any competitors in terms of diet and training, but when I coach people in the lifestyle aspect, I find that many of them are under eating. And I think a lot of people go into it hoping to look like a certain person who has put in a lot of years and time and effort and has built up their calorie intake and has put on a good amount of muscle and has taken those almost like gap years to actually be able to create that physique. And I think that you bring up a lot of good points about how it is a sport of progression. You're always improving. And I especially appreciate that you said you look at where there is opportunity for growth. And I think that's something that a lot of really great coaches do. I think that they see potential more than they see like, well, let's just start taking things away now. And I think that's really awesome. And I'm wondering, like, what do you look for in your athletes in determining if they are show ready? Because obviously, like you've mentioned before, like this looks different on everyone. So what are you looking for?
Well, back to your point, I just would like
Yeah.
to raise something that has helped me, not just, within the fitness industry, but within my career outside of fitness and in life, is using positive words rather than negative words. So oftentimes, people may say, this is my problem area, or I need to fix this. Now, what Jourdanne would say is, no, that's your opportunity. This is our opportunity to improve this. So even using, those positive words rather than those negative words make the biggest difference in all elements of life, whether it's your corporate career or dealing with, a spouse or a best friend or, an athlete. Just those small things end up making a big difference. So yeah, I love to use the word opportunity
That's
instead of
awesome.
instead of problem or challenge. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. Back to your question.
No, I'm so glad you added that. I think that's really important.
Okay, so what do I look for when I think a competitor is ready to
Mhm.
start getting ready for a show? So the most important thing is going to be making sure that we have reverse dieted them up to a sufficient amount of calories, and that they are comfortable internally with themselves and externally with themselves. And I say this because this sport is extremely mental. It's actually, I would like to say, the majority of this sport is mental.
Mhm.
And a person has to be whole in terms of themselves, mentally and physically, before making the life-changing decision to compete, because it is indeed a life-changing decision. So if I feel a person is mentally ready, we have enough calories in them, then I'm comfortable with peeling back the calories to dial them in. So I look for to two things: sufficient macros or a caloric surplus, and that mental stability.
Mm.
And the reason why the mental stability is so key within the sport of bodybuilding is because here's what happens with a competitor. You prep and you prep and you prep, and you begin to see these changes, and you get your physique to its optimal level. You are stage ready, super lean, you see all your muscles. This is the best you've ever looked in your life. Okay. Well, what happens after the show? And this is something that is often seen. The athlete has no direction on exactly what to do after the show. And with fit body fusions methodologies, we are there every step of the way from the beginning to the end with our athletes. So post show, we are there helping them get acclimated back to more normal calories. And we do that with the reverse diet. And the reverse diet is actually more difficult than dialing things in,
Mm.
because what happens, and I'm sure everybody knows, but I'll just go through it really quickly, is with the reverse diet, you're adding calories and macros slowly back in on a weekly basis to have your metabolism catch back up and fill that gap, right?
Yeah.
And it's healthier that way because you're not shocking your body, throwing all this food at your body after being so lean for so long. Your body will not know what to do with it. And that's when the post show rebound happens, which is very difficult to get out of and something that a lot of competitors struggle with. And that's why I bring up that mental element being so important, because you're seeing your body go from what your best is back down to what you're not used to seeing anymore, which is going to be, yeah, you're going to be a little softer, but you're going to have more energy, and you're going to be stronger in the gym, and you might be happier if you can get past, the physical things that you're seeing change in the mirror. So that mental stability and mental toughness is so, so important. And for all of us competitors, we have all been there at one place or another where we have overeaten post show, or watched our body change before our eyes, and gotten to kind of that crappy place where we were unhappy. And my job as a coach is to make sure that I am arming my athletes with all the tools to be successful, not just going into a show, but
Mm.
coming out of a show and using those tools in their life as a whole, and having that healthy relationship with food.
I 100% could not agree more. And I'm so glad that you brought that up in the way that you brought it up, addressing the fact that it's not just about reverse dieting, but it's also about making sure that you feel amazing inside and outside, before a prep and after as well, and continuing that. And you're right, it can be more difficult, especially because you're seeing the changes. And I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to really quickly talk about an event that I'm going to be hopefully hosting. I just want to get an idea of the people who are listening if this is something you would be interested in, because it's exactly related to this. So I actually help competitors post show who are struggling with their relationship to food, their body, and of course, having new goals, right? And seeing their body change. So at this event, it'll likely be in LA. So if you guys are interested, let me know. But we're going to focus on establishing a healthy relationship with food, really working on your mindset, identity, and the personal development work, because I believe so much of this does come to identity. And I'm sure Jourdanne can attest to this. Like when you come out of a prep, you are not in prep mode. Like your identity is not in prep, it changes. And then body image healing exercises, self-love development, setting new standards, goals, and expectation for your lifestyle off of prep. And then, of course, going through any Q&As, hot seats, and whatever else comes up. So if you guys are interested in something like that, please let me know. I'm going to create a little page where you can put your name on an interest list. That way I can start seeing who is interested and getting that up and running so that you guys can, after a show, make peace with food, your body, and your goals. So your improvement season can be a lot more successful and fulfilling. So thank you for bringing that up. That was a really great opportunity for me to say that.
You got it.
So I actually was going to talk to you about this because I mean, we both agree that this is mostly mental, And of course, at the end of the day, you have to actually eat the food and lift the weights and do the posing. But in
Yep.
reality, like, your mind is driving all of this to happen. And I see you as someone who is really confident, very expressive, but also real and relatable. So you say you don't have like an on or an off button, but you do see it more as dialing in to get ready and then like giving your body time to replenish and balance your life. So from your experience, what types of mindset shifts do you make personally when it comes to coming out of a prep and into an improvement season, or vice versa?
Of course. So let me just, and if you've followed my Instagram page, for the listeners out there, you know that I shy away from the word prep.
Mhm.
And here's why. With anything that is glorified, not just with prep, but see if you can hear me out here. Anything that you glorify and make a big deal, there becomes this mental pump up that you have to prepare yourself for, to dive into whatever it is that you've made a spectacle. And I feel like the word prep in the past, in my past years, did that for me. Oh crap, it's time to prep again. We're getting ready for a show. And it's instantly like, oh man,
Mm.
the dreaded prep. So that's why I do my best not to use that word. It actually kind of gives me the heebie jeebies. So I refer to it as just getting ready or dialing it in. And I will say this, coming out of the holidays is always challenging for everybody. We are all human, and we've all ate, we've all spent time with our families, much needed time and much needed food, I'm sure. But at the professional level, it's a little bit different. This is what you do. And not only that, when you have a full-time career outside of fitness and you have other obligations, your time becomes extremely precious.
Mm.
So for me, if I'm going to do something, I'm not going to be half-assed. I'm going to be all in and give it my all. Because one, that's my name on whatever I'm doing and those who I represent. So if it's time to get ready for a show, the date is X, I know I have this much time. I have to button down and I have to fulfill my commitment. So it's more about taking the necessary steps to fulfill your commitment. And when I tell myself I'm going to do something, I like to see through doing that action.
Mm.
So, sometimes it can be difficult. There are plenty of things that go on, and we're women, we're hormonal, we have
Mhm.
tough times, we have, we're very unique beings. And it could be that time of the month, things could be going on at work, things could be going on in your relationship, but I also feel it's partial maturity, committing to something and actually following through with whatever it is that you committed. It's just something that you do. It's something inside of you. It's that spirit. It's that drive. It's that hustle. One of the things that I always say is you can't knock a hustler spirit. And that's definitely something that I live by. And I wouldn't say I have a tip or I wouldn't say I have a trick. It's just when it's time to go, it's time to go. And
Mm.
I have a certain level of expectation for myself that I expect to meet. And if I don't meet that expectation, I get very disappointed in myself.
Mm.
So, in order to fulfill the things that I'm responsible for, I have to take all the necessary steps to get there.
I
So,
love that.
yeah, you just got to do it. If you make a commitment and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you're not getting the result you need, what is that? That's the that's the definition of insanity.
Mhm.
So there's a variable or two or three that you have to change in order to make progress to get to your goals. Tying that back to getting ready for a show, if I'm, eating macros that aren't allowing me to make improvements to dial it in, well, obviously I'm not going to be ready. So
Mhm.
what do I have to do? I have to change a variable within the food that I'm eating in order to get ready. And that's something that I know and understand, and a conscious decision that I have to make, when I make a commitment to step on stage. So it's kind of do or die,
Yeah.
and one of the other things too, as a professional athlete, or being an IFBB bikini pro, is I myself have a responsibility within the industry to lead by example and show action for the competitors that are new to this sport, or the competitors that are not as knowledgeable about this sport, to my peers, to my athletes, to all of those who believe in me. I have to lead by example. And I want to lead by example. It's a
Mhm.
want as well. So those things help carry me through and push me forward to fulfill my commitments.
That's amazing. I love that. You're bringing up so many things that they speak to me, and I think they're going to speak to the audience as well. And I just love the way that you phrase things, and you're so articulate. It's really really awesome the way that you speak, and I just wanted you to know that. And then I also want to say, like, I think that there's a lot of competitors who it's almost like we can become so type A or perfectionist, and it's because we get into that mode of, like, I set out to do this thing and I'm not going to let myself down, I'm not going to let anybody down. And it's a positive, empowering space. And I think some people who haven't competed yet might listen to this and think that sounds crazy, but it almost requires it in this sport. Like, it requires a level of discipline, it requires a level of commitment, and it requires a level of um, resiliency. I guess that would be the word for that.
Mm-hmm.
To know that through all these years, like, it has to be a conscious choice every single day. Like, this is your lifestyle, and you need to do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself along the way, but commit to this goal because you're in it, and for you, you're saying, you're representing the sport, your athletes, your team, the people who believe in you. So um how do you personally, like, set new goals for yourself that inspire you but are also realistic, or how do you help other people to set those types of goals as well?
Course. So one of the things that I've picked up over the years is that the small wins add up. And that is so incredibly true. Um, I so okay, what you do is you look at the entire situation, whether it's myself or an athlete or a friend, and you look at the small things that can be improved, or the short goals or the quick goals, right? Whether it's drinking more water, or eating more veggies, or busting out one more rep in the gym, or just something that is small enough that if you do it over and over multiple times, in the grand scheme of things, it will pay off. And in working with athletes, sometimes you have to be gentle. And when you set these quick goals or these short goals, once they add up and both of you guys look back together hand in hand, it's like, holy crap, we did that. And it makes it what's the word I'm looking for? um I'm not going to use the word fun. That's not the right word. I feel like it makes it a little more attainable if you kind of break things down, instead
Totally.
of coming up with this grandiose goal and you're trying to take the bull by the horns. No, you have to chip away at it little by little by little by little. And here, I'll give you guys an example, just super relatable, obviously fitness related. Okay, so um, I'm a taller athlete. I say this all the time. I need to work harder, and a natural athlete. I need to work harder to stay fuller. Okay.
Mhm.
One of my goals this season was to obviously put on more size, put on more upper body. Okay. So super simple, quick, short goal that I could bang out every time I step into the gym, increasing my weight a little bit, pushing out another rep. And that has allowed me to accomplish the additional muscle that I've been looking for. That was a goal. Accomplish putting size on the upper body, which was another goal. I just had a check-in with my coach Jamie today and looked at, photos like, wow, those short goals, those quick goals, the ones that I set every single day in the gym, they did pay off, which is incredible. And the reason why I like those short goals or quick goals and the small wins is because it's less stressful. A lot of times when people create these huge goals, it seems like to get to that goal, it's eons and eons away. But when you create those shorter goals within reach, when you accomplish them that day or that week, you get that push, that excitement, that feeling of accomplishment to bang out the next goal. And then eventually you have this mountain of all these things you've accomplished, which have built the greater goal that you were looking to accomplish in the beginning.
I love that. Like these stepping stones almost. Like those are those things that add up. Even in, and you mentioned earlier, like a lot of this can apply to life too. Like even in a relationship, whether that's with yourself or somebody else, a friend, a significant other, it's always those little things that tend to make the biggest difference, or that you look back on and you're glad happened, or you're glad you did, or you remember the most. And I love that you said that in your check-in today, you could see that it paid off. And I just think that that's amazing, amazing insight and advice for everybody listening. Like focus on the task at hand, like improving just a little bit each day, the one little small thing that makes the biggest difference. And I love that. And I was curious about, you always talk about having so much fun competing, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't find it miserable. You do believe it's attainable, and you don't say no to everything because of prep or macros. But I think a lot of girls do. So what is your approach to finding or creating this ability for you to do that when you're dialing it in?
Of course. Oh man, I could speak on this forever.
Go for it.
Let me start from the beginning. So I started lifting. Ooh, how old am I? Not giving my age. I won't do it. I started lifting maybe 8-ish years ago. I mean, I grew up an athlete, classically trained as a gymnast, transitioned into volleyball. So I always had that
Me
competitive.
too.
Yeah, see? I've always had that competitive spirit. And then, I tore my ACL and meniscus very badly when I was a gymnast. So I've had aches and pains in that knee forever. And two reasons I got into fitness, but one of them was it was lifting. It was stationary and safe on the knees and the joints. I didn't have to jump around doing plyometrics or, jumping to hit a volleyball or whatever. So that's one of the reasons why I picked up weights. And I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and I've been counting macros for a very long time. So if you look at training for 8-ish years and counting macros for, I don't know, 5-6 years, it becomes your second nature. Now, the first time I stepped on stage was in 2015. And I was totally that person. It was no to everything. I have to stay on my food. It's do or die, prep is life, blah, blah, blah. And I did 3 shows in 2015, and the season did not end the way I wanted to. So I left the stage for 2 years, didn't think I would ever come back. And in 2017, I was like, I'm curious to see what prep's like again. So prepped myself. I did 1 local show. I won the overall, and then I went on to North Americans and won my pro status.
Wow.
When I won my pro status, I told myself something. And this is what I said. Jourdanne, if you're going to compete as an IFBB bikini pro, this is going to be attainable for you. You're going to be able to thrive and flourish in your career and do things outside of fitness without feeling like it's all or nothing. You are going to live a balanced life. And if you cannot live a balanced life, then you will not compete. That is what I told myself.
Wow.
And I have been able to live a balanced life and flourish in my career as a successful pro. So counting macros definitely makes it a lot easier. And because I've been doing it for so long, there are tips and tricks that I do have. You know, if I'm traveling, I travel quite often, not only for shows, but for work. There's a, what was it, last summer, the hotel didn't have a microwave. So I had to improvise and cook my food with a blow dryer, which I did.
Wow, that is improvisation at its finest.
And yeah, and it was my peak week. And I had to travel to the West Coast as
Oh
well.
my
So, you know, because I'm kind of a veteran counting macros, it allows for having that balanced life more attainable. And then the other thing that helps is I'm not scared of food. A lot of times you'll find people or competitors are terrified to eat this or that. I eat what makes me feel good and what I thrive off of. And that's my advice for people, not just with food, but with what you do in the gym. So if there's a lift that you're performing that doesn't feel good, like as in it's straining you in terms of a way that may injure you, then stop, move on to the next thing. If you are logging, you know, your macros and you had something different one day that your body didn't react to too well, then don't eat it. So that flexibility has definitely allowed me to live a full, balanced life, and make good choices, you know, at a restaurant or when I'm on the road. And it's unbelievable the things that you can come up with if you just put a little bit of thought into it. Like, I kid you not, I could probably do a full prep getting stuff from the dollar store. I kid you not.
I believe it.
Are there eggs? Yeah, they're my fats and my proteins. Is there bread? Yup, they're my carbs. Is there peanut butter? Is there cereal? Yup. Is there bottled water? I'm good.
I love
So
it. This is the dollar store prep episode.
now my body may be like, actually, no, they're whole foods. It'll be fine.
That's so funny. I think that's interesting too. Like you're able to learn so much about your body when you track macros that way. And I think I've known some people who actually like they couldn't afford what was on their prep meal plan, so they had to follow macros and get things that they could afford. So I think that's actually a great tip as well for people maybe who are prepping on a budget. Like remember, you're not tied down to one specific way or strategy. And you also said, you know, you're not afraid of food, you listen to your body, you know, you'll eat what feels good and you lift in a way that feels good. When you are, you know, in like your building phases, just like this past couple of months, just from what I've noticed, like you've gained a lot of muscle, and also over the years, you know, you've gained a lot of muscle without going to extremes. So what do you think has helped contribute to that side of things as well?
Age.
First of all.
So what happens over time is, okay, no, let me go back to the beginning. Let me peep some quick knowledge. So when people first start lifting, you have the newbie gains.
Yeah.
Newbie gains is literally like you're putting on muscle very, very quickly within like the first year, and you're like, oh, I got these shoulders and these legs and these glutes and these abs. Oh my God. Right? After the newbie gains phase, it is up hill struggle. Like, it is not easy to put on muscle. I have this joke where when I lift upper body, I need a mouth guard because I'm like, my teeth go hard. But with proper food, whole foods, not junk, and a lot of compound lifts, a lot of heavy lifts, a lot of struggling to push the weight up has allowed me to put size on. Like, I kid you not, like eating a lot of food, but good quality food that my body is going to utilize and push to the muscles. Not doing a lot of cardio in the off season, basically no cardio in the off season, just a little bit to keep my heart pumping and to get a sweat. And then those lifts that build the body. So no, I'm not sitting there doing kickbacks and, doing like side lateral raises with 5-pound plates. Like, I'm talking about, like, we're pushing up like 35, 40-pound dumbbell overhead presses to put the size on. And I say this all the time, I'm an athlete. I'm not like a bikini girl. Like, I train like an athlete. I eat like an athlete. That's how I perform. And that's how I've been able to thrive and really get that size on. And then again, being consistent with the macros and the food. And what that consistency allows for is being able to make those changes, right? So, all right, the plan is to get some size on. What are we doing? We're increasing our macros steadily. So we're fueling those lifts so we can put that size on, and we're not doing cardio to burn off all that food, right? One of the things that happens is people want to stay shredded in the off season. Well, if you stay shredded in the off season, your in season's probably going to be very difficult. As women, we are supposed to have some extras on us, which I like to call it, or the balance of hormones, so we can get our cycles back if we lose them for an extended period of time. And you got to have fat on you. You want your brain healthy. You have to have those calories in you to get your body back to equilibrium, right? So luckily, I never lose my cycle, praise goodness, but having a balance of all of those things, and my coach, Jamie, understanding how my body reacts to food and putting the right foods in there paired with the heavy lifts is how we were able to accomplish putting on more size. And like, again, I'm going to say, like, I get in the gym and I bust my chops. Like, I work my ass off in there. I'm about business. I don't go to socialize. I have my hat on. I had a t-shirt on, and like, we get to work, and that's how it should be every single session. So
how often are you training per week?
I train 5 days a week.
Awesome.
5 hard days a week.
I just recently switched to 5 days a week because I've always done 6, and it was mostly because I was on prep for so long, and when I wasn't competing, similar to you, I competed in 2015, took 2 years, and then started again and like fell in love with it. It didn't, similar bad experience in the beginning, but at least towards the end. So anyway, I like recently switched to 5 times a week, and I'm finding, like, because I'm doing so much more like compound lifts, like my body can't handle any more than that. Like,
yes, I love it. Compound lifts.
Like, physically, I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is where it's at.
Yeah. Because what happens, and I'm glad you said compound lifts.
Mm-hmm.
That is the foundation to build your body, the compound lifts. So when I was a noob back in the day and I first started lifting, I built my body off of doing deadlifts. I would just pull and pull and pull for like an hour and a half, just deadlift in it. And then when I, educated myself a little more, then I was like, oh, okay, I could do 5x5 training, break down the different body parts. And that's when I really started seeing my physique take off and change. Okay, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
The day job. Okay. Yeah, so you mentioned that you're tired, you can't physically do any more than 5 days a week. Yes, exactly. And that's an amazing thing, because what's happening is you're working so hard in the gym, your body is training, or your body is changing. So by the time you get to your days off, the timing is right because what you're doing in the gym is right. So yeah, your body is due for time off. And those rest days are key. This team no days off stuff that all of us have been guilty of one day or another, like that's not cool. Like your
No.
body has to repair. You have to give your body time to repair those muscles that you have ripped and those cells that you've ripped and regenerate themselves. And I'm not talking about an active rest day. No, 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 no. Like you literally need to let your body settle down, you know? Maybe a little
Mm-hmm.
walking, okay, fine, but like not doing a class and saying that's a rest day. And then the adequate amount of sleep is so, so important again, because that's when your body is repairing itself at nighttime. And that will segue into the next thing I'm going to say. So for me, I see this within myself and with clients and fellow competitors. If you aren't getting a sufficient amount of rest, a couple of things are going to happen. You're not going to drop weight. You're probably going to hold water, and your digestive system, you're probably gonna be delayed going to the bathroom, or not go to the bathroom, because at night when you're at rest, that's when your body's doing all of the things to repair itself, like I mentioned before. So sleep and rest is so critical in this sport, and it's awesome that you're taking those 2 days off. I'm sure you're seeing a difference.
I actually really am. And at first, it's scary going from training like so often to then backing off. But I think those are the changes. Like when they scare us like that, they're almost like the most necessary. It's kind of like when one exercise is really hard, we usually like need it more than others if it's challenging us. And um, I've found that it's making a big difference. And the sleep, I have had way better sleep because I'm pushing my body hard, but also when my body needs rest, it freaking rests. And like,
Yes.
supplementing properly, I found like magnesium, zinc, and then when I take melatonin before bed as well, just 3 to 5 milligrams makes
Mm-hmm.
a huge difference. And uh, like just sleep in general, like I'm finding, like if I look back on my preps, like there was a time where I was working like 3 jobs, waking up at 4, well, earlier than 4 a.m. sometimes just to get to the gym by 4 a.m. to do cardio. I wasn't going to bed until like 10,
Yep.
11. And I'm like, looking back, I remember those were the times where my digestion was off, just like you said. Like hearing you talk about it, I'm like, yeah, that adds up. So,
Yep.
so true. So I think I'm learning more, especially in this improvement season, like valuing the rest, valuing the growth, recognizing, my equilibrium may be different than someone else's. And on this show, we've talked a lot about not getting your period because this is something I've gone through and a lot of people I know who listen to this go through. But I've also talked to a lot of girls backstage who don't stop getting their period, and that can be from, too much progesterone. But I'm wondering, like for you, your period has actually always been on point and shows up sometimes around show day. So
Oh, ugh.
I wanted to ask you, like, because I know there's people who've had this. So when this happens, what are you doing to manage it?
All right, so okay, let's see. Wings of Strength, Wings of Strength Phoenix this year. Oh
Uh-huh.
boy. Uh yeah. She's such a B word, man. She graced me with her lovely presence, and man, that blew my package. Man.
Oh no.
The crazy part is, so I woke up Friday morning crispy, crispity. Like,
Uh-huh.
I was like, yes, like, we're on point.
Uh-oh.
Friday night, it was a whole different story. Oh,
No.
I mean, you guys could look back at the stage pictures if you want to, but I was smooth and soft. Um, so okay, how do we combat that? Well, my coach, she's pretty badass. Damn Jam. She knows how to deal with my body. We honestly, we will just adjust the macros in a way that we put the period on timeout.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, this morning again, I know I referenced my check-in earlier in our discussion, but my lovely visitor, she graced me again, but I woke up super tight, super tight, because of the food that I'm eating, and the macros that we're at right now. I haven't really gotten bloaty or anything like that. I'm actually surprised. The telltale symptoms were really just moody stuff, but if your period's coming up, the week of a show, the only thing that you can really do is adjust your food. That's the only element. I wouldn't say over cardio, but I would probably say, look at how many carbs you're eating, probably. And you know what? I don't like to step on toes on methodologies that other people have. So let me talk about myself here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going into a peak week and I'm going to start my period, chances are I'm going to keep my macros consistent in a place where I'm not going to hold any extra water, and I probably wouldn't do a carb up, and I'm probably going to stick to more anti-inflammatory foods. And I actually practice that now. I'm not on a full anti-inflammatory diet. I don't like that word diet, but I'm not on a full anti-inflammatory eating regimen, but I do incorporate anti-inflammatory elements, which has helped. And not a lot of processed foods, which has helped. And I strongly feel that it has aided in my physique this cycle. Crazy enough that I think about it, but only things that are going in the body right now are whole foods, which I think has helped with my cycle. So maybe stick to those things, and you just have to monitor it. The other thing too, I don't know how often women do this, but monitor your period, track your period. In the Fitbit app, there's a female health tracking feature where you can log your period, and you can go back and look to see when you may suspect it. And that could also help going into a show. I know it helps Jamie and myself when we're going into shows, and she'll just adjust accordingly. So, and we won't do anything too crazy with water. It's all in the food. It's all in the macros.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I think, people who do experience that will benefit from hearing that and can implement it as well. And, I think, of course, health is just super important, to talk about, especially in this industry and in this sport, because this is a sport that can, play a role with your hormones and does play a role with your hormones and metabolism and also your mind, of course. So I know that, many people can follow a similar protocol, and one person's body can feel like it's had havoc wreaked on it, right? And then the other person can actually be functioning at their highest level, following that similar protocol. So what are you doing to stay healthy on and off prep? How are you looking out for and monitoring your health aside from tracking when your period's coming?
Well, I scream this from the mountaintops. I am a natural athlete. I've never taken any of the quote unquote advanced supplementation.
That's a nice way of saying it.
Yes. I have never touched any of the advanced supplementation to help aid in my physique. And I don't even take fat burners really, that you can get from bodybuilding.com or the other supplement companies. So one, as I mentioned before, having my period, that's a very important sign of hormonal health and health in general. And also just making sure that I'm eating a sufficient amount of calories, especially with the fats. Fats and hormones, they have a very close relationship. So making sure I'm getting a healthy amount of fats and really practicing that 80-20 or 90-10 guide in terms of the type of foods that you're consuming, because you so cliche to say, but you really are what you eat. If you are fueling yourself with good whole foods, then you're going to feel better than if you're cramming a bunch of sugar and processed stuff. So I do my best to eat healthy, maintain good hormonal health, stretch. That is very underrated within this industry. Stretching and taking care of your muscles, not going into the gym and lifting weights, but foam rolling, getting massaged, which is something newer that I've picked up, doing, trigger point release, going to physical therapy if you have an injury, and actually addressing injuries. A lot of times, you'll see competitors that just muscle through injuries.
Mm-hmm.
I strongly, strongly suggest, if you, oh, the pups are going crazy. If you have an injury or you have something achy, please go check it out, because if you're continuing to train on whatever it is, you could progressively make it worse, and one day it may just give out on you and become a much bigger injury. So I strongly advise that you do your best to take care of your body's your muscles, in terms of the maintenance element, not just the lifting element, but the maintenance element. Like, bend over. Can you touch your toes? Well, if you can't touch your toes, you should probably stretch and, make that a quick goal or a short goal that can be attained. But that, and, as well, I feel like this is really underrated, but like going to the doctor just to get a regular checkup.
Yeah.
Like, just go get a flipping checkup. And I know, like, this podcast is primed for women, but guys, if you're listening to this, men, go
For real.
a flippin' checkup. Like, it's so important. Like, get your blood work done. Make sure that all those routine things are being done, so you know yourself that you're healthy, because they may find something that you didn't know existed, or you may have had like an issue or something and you didn't know why, and then you go to the doctor and you figure out, like, oh, it was that the whole time. So, just regular maintenance as a human is so important to keep yourself healthy.
Yeah, I love all those tips. And I like that you said, not working through injury. This improvement season, I like about 2 months into it, I actually hired a trainer who specializes in mobility and functional movement so that I could improve the little things that would make a big difference when I'm doing the big movements and when I am actually hitting it hard, like making sure I have full range of motion, my body's functioning. And I used to have to wear knee sleeves, and I would just like be like, oh, I'll just wear knee sleeves, it's fine, like whatever. But then I started, learning way more mobility stuff, and obviously having that accountability to do so. I don't have to wear them anymore. Like, these are just now it's a non-negotiable. It's become a habit as much as foam rolling. So like you said, that was a big decision that actually had a lot of small little goals that we created throughout it, and now those goals are habits, and they're just things that I do. And I also like that you brought up getting a checkup. It's interesting how a lot of men, and I'm sure there's women who have husbands that are listening to this, who avoid getting their checkups, and it's amazing how psychological that is. But yeah, it's really important to do. And I avoided it because I knew that my doctors would have a problem with me not getting my period.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm not going to go to the doctor until I'm done competing this year. And I was like, 5 shows later, like, oh, it's been 2 years. I didn't go to the doctor because of something that is obviously a problem. And I'm glad that I did. But those are things that we sometimes, like, our I guess we could say our ego gets ahead of us and makes those decisions instead of actually letting us do what's best for us. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. And I want to kind of shift gears and talk about your life outside of competing, because I know, like, you don't publish everything in one of your posts. It's not about publishing your whole life on the gram, keeping a lot of it private. But I am curious, like, what are you doing outside of coaching and competing and being a sponsored athlete? Like, what is your career that you're like finding yourself able to flourish in? Like, what are you doing?
So I work in business technology. Yeah, nerdy.
Awesome. What does that entail?
So I work in prepaid technologies, which is simplest terms, I work in the gift card space. So everything to do with gift cards from the physical and digital perspective. So that's what I do by day. It is a very, very demanding career that I have engulfed myself in. However, it is great because the people that I'm surrounded with, you know, they've definitely made a difference and fostered and nurtured me into a lot of my successes within the industry. So yeah, it's kind of like, nerd by day, then like this like superhero thing by night.
Clark Kent.
So yeah, and I definitely, do keep things private from social media because that's mine. That's
Mm.
that's special to me, and that's what I protect. Um, Social media can be a very vicious place. Not can be, it is a very, very vicious place. Um, we've seen a lot of things, a lot of dramas, a lot of goodness, a lot of not so goodness um, on social media. I do my best to keep things fitness related. That is my avenue for, all things that have to do with competing and bodybuilding. So that's what you guys are going to see.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, and your content is great. You're very, very genuine and respectful and just real, like I said before. And I know you've talked about in regard to talking about fitness and competing. You shared about how you used to try to make your stage look a certain way with your hair different, posing different to be considered like sexier. So, what realizations did you come to that made you feel like ready and really committed to just being yourself and having fun in your way up there?
Okay, how am I going to answer this? A couple different things. So, a spurt of maturity arose in me. Um, and I said, I don't care about conforming to the norm, and I don't want to. And this is me, and I like my curls. And, you know, I'm not sexy. I'm a tomboy. Like, I'm wearing sweats right now and hiking socks. Like, the whole sexy thing doesn't work for me. Never been sexy, won't ever be sexy. I mean, it just translates in the pictures. Like, I would look at the pictures and be like, what the hell is that? That, like, no, that's not Jourdanne, that's not Jay. And one day I was like, I'm gonna rock the curls and wear a different color. Um, and that's exactly what I did. I was confident. I was myself, obviously, with the guidance of Jamie, who's amazing. She tweaked my posing to really highlight my physique, which has been an absolute game changer, I will say. Um, and as we did a couple more shows together, and I was able to get more practice on stage and get more comfortable, the posing and the flow and like my style, I really, really came into it.
Mm.
Um, it's funny because Jessie Palmer, who I mentioned before, we were talking about this the other day, and I'm like, you're like the ballerina who swiftly dances on stage, and I'm like the cute bouncing bunny who bounces on stage. And she was like, that's accurate. I mean, you just have to own what you are. Like, on stage for me, like, the bubbly personality comes out, the laughy, goofy me comes out. Like, that's how I thrive. And that's what makes me successful. Like, oh, here she comes bouncing with the curls. Like, and once you find that and you're comfortable, once you can nail that down, that's when you flourish. When you're comfortable and confident in your own skin and you
Yeah.
own it. Like, I kid you not, I'm like, when I decided, to like not do the straight hair thing, I was literally like, nope, screw it, going with the curls, here we go. And I'll probably never straighten my hair ever again, not just for stage, but just in life, because this is me. This is who I am as a person, and what I like and what I have accepted. So
I love that. It's really cool to just hear that, you had that transformation internally where you just didn't care about conforming anymore, and it was about embracing who you are. And now that's serving you at a much higher level than the conforming ever could have. And you're enjoying yourself, and I love your stage shots. It's always so fun to just see you so bubbly, so smiley, like almost like look like you're laughing, which I think is just awesome.
You know what? I am some of the time.
Really?
Yeah, I'm laughing. Yes.
Let's just be real. I love that. That is so cool. I think it's like it's amazing what we'll do to think like this is the look, this is what they're looking for. But really like what most people have shared on here, and just like even like a judge who was just recently on, it's just like embracing like who you are, representing your best self is so important. And I was thinking about how when I did my first show, oh my God, I like you, like I look at those pictures and I'm like, no way, like no.
Right.
I was like winking in one of them. I swore I would never mention that, but here I am. Um, and I look at that and I'm like, help, like this is so gross. But I think it was like goes back to like you think you have to do a certain thing, or you watch someone who like kills it doing a move, like this one woman, Robin, she was actually the episode right before you. She said like, some people want to emulate a move that a top pro like Angelica's, hair flip, for example, and it doesn't work for other people. Like you have to choose what actually works for you and highlights your best. And yeah, it's amazing. Like I remember curling my hair for my first show, and I didn't like the way it came out at all. I didn't like how it looked. And then now I just always wear it straight, and I feel so much more myself. And
Mhm.
I never wear makeup at all. So on stage is the only day that I do. And like that's already pushing it enough for me. So I'm like, keep it as natural as possible. And I think it's about how whatever we can do to make ourselves feel more confident is going to highlight that in our physique and the way we
Yep.
step on stage.
And Celeste, let me ask you this. When
Yeah.
you decided to wear your stage swag in a way that made you comfortable, what did that do for your confidence?
It changed everything. I was so much happier backstage. I didn't feel like I had to impress anyone or put on a show. Like I just felt so much more me, and it helped me as well, like just kind of embracing competing as a whole. Like I found so much more enjoyment in it because I was it gave myself permission to be myself. And then that translated in other areas of my life too, where I was like, I don't have to do what everyone's doing, or I don't have to try to create something others have done, And yeah, it made a big difference.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And see, you just said a very good point. You said you gave yourself permission to be yourself
Mm-hmm.
and not care about others, right?
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
translated that into other areas of your life, and you know that is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Being yourself and being an individual and not feeling like you have to do the same thing everyone else has to do to be
Yeah.
successful. And I totally stand by that 1000%.
I love it. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And it's kind of like you don't have to identify as anything except for who you feel you're most confident as. And you brought up earlier how your period impacted one of your looks on stage. And when that happened, like how were you able to still embrace who you are? Like did that impact your confidence? Did that change anything about how you presented yourself?
It didn't.
Mm-hmm.
um I will say that, okay, it was more of a feeling of like helplessness, right?
Mm.
At that point, it was out of my hands. Mother Nature was like, yo, I got something for you. Like literally. And it was out of my hands. And I just went and I had fun and smiled and did my thing. Because at that point, there's nothing you can do. You can't stress over what has occurred that is out of your power. You can only manage the things within your power. And what was I able to manage at that point in time. My confidence, my style, or sorry, my style. Well, I guess that goes too. My confidence, my routine, and just my overall presentation. That was the only thing that I can control, and that's what I did. I couldn't control the fact that I wasn't dialed in where I should have been, but I was able to control what I displayed on stage that day. Sorry, just one second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Relax. Okay, he was excited.
No worries. Well, okay, that makes sense. I mean, it's like I think just controlling what you can, not getting upset over the things that you can't, manage. And I know that you also refer to yourself as a carb baby, and is that because it helps you like peak for show day, or what is that?
I thrive off of carbs. Like legit, give me all the carbs. I thrive. Oh man, like it's funny because I say one of my goals eventually in life is to be able to eat an entire box of cereal every day in addition to my regular food.
That's a big goal.
I feel like I can do it. I would need like a couple months off. Reverse dieting, probably like a good 6 months. I always joke about it though, but yeah, I refer to myself as a carb baby because like I could literally eat 4 bagels and like keep going, and like the bod is cool. The bod's like, yeah, give me more carbs. I'm like, okay.
Do you have a different reaction to fats?
Yeah. So for me, my fats need to be balanced. If like, okay, let me go like that. Basically, if somebody wanted to put me on a keto diet, I would laugh in their because my body just it does not mesh well with the high fat, high protein thing. That just doesn't work for me. So yeah, I thrive off of a balanced diet. That is where I see the best results, and that is when I feel my best.
Yeah.
The other thing too with my diet or my macros needing to be balanced is you know, I wouldn't say I have food intolerances, but the typical, pro, or not just pro, but athlete, bodybuilder, whatever, they eat a lot of chicken. I eat no chicken.
Really?
If it's in chicken soup, but yeah, like I can't put down like a chicken breast or turkey. Like my body doesn't agree with it. Which sounds crazy. You would think it'd be something like red meat or, pork, but like the chicken and the turkey, I can't. This kiddo cannot do it.
What do you do for your protein?
So I do a lot of egg whites. I'll do protein powder every now and then. Tuna, salmon. I'll do red meat maybe like once or twice a month, kind of around my cycle when my iron's low. But more so egg whites and fish and seafood, I would say.
That's so interesting. Like it honestly goes back to how like everybody's body is so different. Like you can't assume that one thing that works for someone's gonna work for the next person. And like for me, like egg whites, my least I can't stand them. I'm fine when I eat them, but oh, they're so I like drown them in ketchup, in the off season, or turn them into a waffle, or like drink them, just chug them. I don't care. I can't eat those things. One time it took me 3 hours. 3 hours.
Oof.
I'm not even kidding you. I had to text my coach. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, no egg whites. He's like, try making it into this waffle like that the girls do. And I was like, okay. And now that's like one of my favorite things ever. But
Yes.
yeah, that's like, no egg whites. Ugh. When you said it, I was like, how about no? Like,
You had to make it more palatable. I know. No.
seafood?
They're really not bad when you put cheese on them. Like I'll do a lot of like
You're
cheesy,
right.
yeah, and it's like super good.
God, love that. I love that cheese because it gets like it makes it like kind of oily and fatty. Like
Yep.
it's definitely easier to eat. So okay. Obviously, you're the carb baby. You love following macros. You've been lifting for a long time. Like you became someone who like loves competing. You represent the sport as an IFBB pro and you take responsibility for that. You are committed to always having enough like balance or the ability to flourish in every area of your life while competing. So in regard to the best advice that you could give to someone who is new to competing, and even someone who has competed and is looking to get their pro card, maybe stepping on a national stage soon, what would your advice be?
Do your research. I know you're probably like, everyone says that.
It's great advice.
Okay, so let me elaborate on that. So do your research on who you would like to coach you to that level. Okay. And ask questions so you understand what their methodologies are. Social media is a very powerful thing. Reach out to other athletes so you can ask them questions and pick their brains. Ask to get on the phone with people. When we bring potential clients on with Fit Body Fusion, we actually like to talk to people on the phone. There's no way that I'm signing up with a coach just like everything through email and I've never met them before. I want to have some sort of human element or human connection within the relationship. So really do your research around coaches, their methodologies, and their success rates. Ask questions to other athletes. Do researches on shows. So if you're trying to obtain your pro card, look at the shows in the past years, and so you can understand, what the competition is looking like. Earlier, I know that we talked about focusing on your best self, you versus you, but there's a level of expectation or a level of competition that you have to make sure that you can meet, being your best self, obviously, before you hit the national stage. So you can kind of level set with yourself in terms of, okay, maybe I have a little more work to do. This lineup, they're very developed in the upper body area, and that's an area that I need to work on, So looking at, show histories, how competitors did, so you know exactly what to expect. And then it's also important to ask questions around those shows as well. Don't be afraid, there will be somebody who will answer you. Don't stop trying, Some people may not even get to it in their inbox, but don't give up. Seriously. Don't give up. And then the other thing too that I wanted to mention, around, for the first timers and competing and looking for a coach, one of the things that is so important, let's say you're given like a meal plan or something, and you don't know how much food you're intaking, or you don't understand what like the grand scheme is. There probably should have been a little more research done. And I see this all the time. I'm not eating anything. I'm always starving. I'm binging, blah, 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 blah. Well, then my question is, do you know how much food you're eating? No. Okay. That's the first opportunity there. Figuring out what you're actually putting in your body, because you need enough food to fuel you, right? So those are the main things that come to mind, when you ask that question. But it really just comes down to doing the research and really understanding all of the things that you're getting into. So sorry, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
So this is how I like to I guess I like to use this analogy. So you have high school football, then you have college football, and then if you're good enough in the college leagues, you get drafted to go to the NFL. Okay? Mm-hmm. That is the same for this competition world. You have your local shows. Then you have your national shows. If you win a national show, you're inducted into the professional league. So in embarking on this competitive thing, it's understanding what that progression is. And each time you graduate, it gets more challenging.
Mm.
And with that, you're going to have to grow, not just physically, but mentally. Because the mental game, it gets more tricky as you continue to move up. So, sorry, the pups, they distracted me.
No, that was
So
great insight.
scatterbrain there. I'm sorry.
That's your scatterbrain, dang, that's really good. Yeah, that's amazing. I really like that. It's a really good metaphor or comparison, and so true. I think something I learned too is just because you're nationally qualified or you've done a lot of shows doesn't mean you're ready to step on a national stage. I definitely, like, I could tell, like, using the method that you said, like, level set with yourself, like, look at the competition, but not in a way where you're like, I have to look like this person, but okay, what's the level of conditioning, the level of muscle, like, what are they really looking at here, like, what's winning? And know that if you're not ready for that, then don't put yourself through it. I think it's so much better to take the time to grow and learn and progress more so than it is to just like wing it. So I think that's really great advice, and I appreciate you sharing that and coming on here today and taking the time with me. And I would, of course, love everybody else to be able to say thank you to you and give you a shout out or let you know how much it meant to them or even reach out to you about working with you. So do you mind just letting them know where they can find you, connect with you, or learn more about that?
Of course. And it was my pleasure. My pleasure today, Celeste. So yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram. My handle is JLifts, one word, double underscore. So JAYLIFTS __. As mentioned before, I also do coach. One of the reasons why I started was because I wanted to give back to all of you lovely humans. You could also reach out to me via Instagram to talk about coaching. And then, I also wanted to just mention my sponsors who have been absolutely amazing. Evogen Nutrition and Toxic Angels Bikinis, Liquid Sunrays, Pam's Cakes. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much. And the Fit Body Fusion fam, you guys know what's up. Thank you guys so much. So, and Miss Celeste, I really appreciate you taking the interest today in interviewing me. I hope that you receive some good content.
Yes.
Pleasure.
So much. It was really amazing. Just absolutely awesome talking to you today. And I'm going to put all of your links and the link that has like all your sponsors as well. I'm going to include that in the episode webpage. So everybody listening, if you want to be able to connect with her even further, check out celestial.fit/podcast. She will be at the very top of the page if you're listening to this right away. If you're listening to this in the future down the road, there will be a category section with her name. So make sure that you just scroll down to find that. If you guys ever have any questions, suggestions, comments you want to add, feel free to do so. It helps when you rate, review, and subscribe. And of course, that way you'll never miss an episode. And with all of that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, night, or mornings, wherever you are in the world where you're listening to this podcast episode. Just